Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV this Saturday night. It's V8SCOPS race weekend once again, and we are in virtual Japan at Okayama International Circuit. Here for V8SCOPS supports on the Saturday night, and the 9th round of the championship. We're certainly going to see some interesting racing at a track we have not been to in the V8s in a very long time. This used to be a great fixture of the Monday Night Official series, but it's been a while since we've had a broadcasted V8 race at this track here on SimSpeed. Bringing it to you live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner. David Haynes is alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy is behind the scenes pressing all the buttons and bringing you these live pictures. Well, Hainesy, it's time for Okayama. Challenging circuit, very technical indeed. One of the newer tracks in Japan, but love seeing cars race around it. It's always provided great racing in my experience.
Yeah, once you've been to Osaka and had your absolute fill of takoyaki, you can head down to Okayama and then head into the mountains. So that's where this track sits. Very much nestled amongst the mountains. So many hills and trees all around. Twice a host of Formula One Grand Prix racing. And that's where it gets a lot of its names from, is the British Association with this place. Can be a bit tight, can be a bit slow and technical, but 1 and 2, I actually really like the flow through that part of the racetrack.
Yeah, indeed. First corner and final corner are the names of the first corner and final corner, interestingly. But first corner leading into Williams is a fantastic piece of racetrack, and you run the flow through the Moss S up to Atwood at turn 4, the back straight coming up to the hairpin at turn 5. That's going to be one of the prime overtaking places on this layout. The double hairpin of Redman and Hobbs will have some interesting switchback possibilities, and Mike Knight corner, the second last one where the pit lane peels off, is a challenging one in these machines. Also got to remember Revolver and Piper at turns 6 and 7. Downhill corners where you need to try and maximize your mid-corner speed, but the gravel traps and the grass are always waiting.
And there's something our producer knows that I famously always say when we come to this place. It's about the pit entry and how far along the pit lane speed limit actually starts. You see some rookies come here and they slow down to the pit lane speed limit way too early in that pit lane. You go past the scrutineering bay and you begin to approach the garages before you actually have to slow down to pit lane speed limit. A little bit of a refresh graphically around this place recently as well, so it does look pretty schmick.
Absolutely does. The art update for Okayama, I believe last year sometime it came out, and it's looking great, right up to the modern standards of iRacing. And, well, there's a lot of great stuff to be coming in the new season build very soon. Looking forward to having races with some of the content included in that. But for now, let's have a look at the racing action we've got on the cards for tonight. A 2-race format for this particular round of V8SCOPS supports. 2 races of 21 laps each. The drivers are in their 15-minute qualifying session as we speak. There is a compulsory pit stop in both races as well, so the drivers will need to practice that pit entry you were talking about, David.
Well, you really hope that by race 2, they'll have all nailed it, even if they struggle with it in race 1. Or Jay Kennedy's trying to get us that camera angle, I think. There's the scrutineering shed. You get to go full pace past that, and of course, you're always looking for the gigantic yellow cones to tell you when you need to slow down to the pit lane speed limit, which is 60 k's an hour here. And of course, the green cones at pit exit that tell you you can floor it, and then the blue cone that tells you you can merge across from the pit exit.
Yeah, indeed. There's the pit entry at Okayama is such a strange one, because as you've been mentioning, the iRacing pit speed limit line is actually quite some distance after the white line and speed board in the digital track model. So it's something the drivers will need to really look out for on their way into the pits here. Yeah,
Lockhart Brownlee just rear-ended Gavin Cox because Cox slowed down maybe 100 meters too early, but now he'll know.
Yeah, he certainly will. Oh man. Well, we'll get through the last 10 minutes of this qualifying session. There we go. Thanks, Jay. See,
that's a lie.
Yep, that is not where the pit speed limit kicks in. We have to go a couple hundred meters, or maybe about 50 meters, actually, further up the road at the yellow cones. That is where the pit speed limit kicks in. The drivers need to nail that. Elsewise, they'll be rear-ended, as we have seen. So a big talking point every time we race at Okayama. It's a free track. It's part of iRacing's base content. Everyone who's a road racer on this platform knows this track and has raced on it at some point, but it can be a bit difficult to remember sometimes. Dylan Walker leads the 2019 class standings by some margin over his former teammate Lockhart Brownlee at Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport, Chad Lewis and Dylan Gray, with Robbie Bradbury rounding out your top 5. The standings are looking a little bit more distanced than they have been in previous rounds. Lockhart's going to need some good results in these final few rounds of the championship if he wants to claim that from the number 53.
Yeah, at least up top, it's looking very, very thrilling, though, between Dylan Walker and Lockhart Brownlee, all to play for there. Over in the 2014 class, Aaron Gilbert has a very handy little lead, but Henry King, Matt Haywood, Daniel Stevens are all relatively close to each other. That top 10's completed by Robert Crisdale, Dave Arney, Joseph Mahoney, Martin Lipsky, Gary Watson, and Dion DeGraff.
Indeed. And, well, this is the first hint of where everyone's going to be standing coming into the first of our 2 races tonight. Bit of gravel on the outside of turn 2 there. That'll be a little bit difficult in terms of finding grip around here. Just gone past the halfway point in qualifying, and Aaron Gilbert leads the overall standings. Chad Lewis has had a good qualifying session so far. Has yet to dip underneath the 1 minute 30 bracket for the 2019 class machines. But we do have a few, not so much guest appearances, but more wild cards. Simon Mazzomo, 3rd place in the 2019 cars. And after making a blistering debut last round at the Bend in V8SCOPS proper, the American Sean Campbell has decided to race in supports here at Okayama for Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport. So let's see what he can do here racing in the 2014 spec Holden VF Commodore. His practice times were looking pretty handy, only a few tenths off Aaron Gilbert's pace.
Can never get over the fact that the dials there are 2-dimensional, just underneath the screen. He's going to take this pit entry, so you can still go flat out, you can still go flat out, and you've got to be a little bit careful, but you can still go flat out, and now you're slowing up.
Yeah, Campbell more or less nailed that pit entry there. Nice to see. For the moment, not seeing much trace of any improvements on lap time, but we might see one here from Chad Lewis, who's bringing his Evolution Racing Team Holden Commodore out of the final corner now. Gently does it on your way out of there. It's a difficult corner exit, sets a 1 minute 30.2, which isn't quite fast enough to overcome his initial fastest lap time there. Lockhart Brownlee is continuing to jet
He's just
away
gone
here,
top.
managing to go top in the 2019 class. Yes, by 0.003 of a second.
Yeah, so super close, but the lap time comes in for Lockhart Brownlee. I think he's still pushing around, but I don't know how long the tyres really hold on at that absolute peak of grip in this qualifying. Seeing a lot of, you know, out lap, push lap, in lap, new tyres, out lap, push lap sort of thing going on. Dan Stevens will make just a little bit of a jump there.
Yep, just a little bit up to P4 in the 2014 spec cars, but we do have the top four in 2019 splitting our 2014 top two. Billy Rowley is going to have to find half a second or so if he wants to get anywhere close to Aaron Gilbert and actually start near him on the grid here. But Billy's having a good time in the qualifying session nonetheless. He's always been hinting at being a top competitor in the 2014 class. We haven't really seen the full result from him to back that up. We might see it here at Okayama if his times are anything to go by.
Indeed, a lot of drivers in the pit lane with just a couple of minutes left in this session. Rowley carrying on, I think, just about to begin a flying lap from what I can see. So I think he's tried to square up that exit out of the final corner, and he'll start a flying lap now, just being wary of a little bit of the traffic, a lot of other cars exiting pit lane. I've got 4 microsectors. It'll take a while before it gets around to the first one that tells us exactly how this one is going, if it's tracking for an improvement.
Okay, so out of turn 2 for Billy Rowley through the Moss S and lining up the braking zone for Atwood here. An uphill medium speed corner.
Well, he's been jumped.
Close to a hairpin. He has been jumped indeed. Rebo Grossenbacher, who made his V8SCOPS supports debut at Hockenheim Ring a couple of rounds ago, putting himself up into P2 there, but only by 0.002 of a second. So any improvement that Rowley can make there is going to profit.
Yeah, and it's been 2 good sectors for Billy Rowley as well. So the first 2 have gone really, really well. It's so competitive in every class, everywhere you look. So that gap between Grossenbacher and Rowley needs to find a little bit, but Joseph Mahoney's found a little bit in the 2014 class. Chad Lewis just 0.003 of a second behind Lockhart Brownlee. These guys are on their out laps. Rowley's still on that flying lap. Lost about half a second through the mid-sector, though. He's backed off, I reckon.
Yeah, he has. And he is actually going to commit to another lap here, it seems. See if there's any improvement on the second lap here. The track's not blisteringly hot, but it's not really that cool either. 34 degrees Celsius on the bitumen at the moment. 25 Celsius air temperature. A bit windy as well there. 14 k's an hour coming from the south and reasonably high humidity as well. So that might be something the drivers will have to factor in to their performances here. The tyres will heat up a bit more with these sort of medium track temperatures, and the optimum grip won't continue for a particularly long time. Final lap or so beginning for Chad Lewis now as he exits turn 1, sticking to middle of the course to the right, really, to open up the entry into turn 2. And cars this powerful, the straighter the exit you get, the better.
Heat session, so I think we get a hard cut to the end of qualifying here, even though it's all on track. So I think you're now beginning your final lap, taking 1:30 or so to complete a lap. Everyone crossing the line in the next 20 seconds will get one final lap, but then you will not have enough time. How come Sean Campbell doesn't have a lap time?
Yeah, I've noticed that. He's pulled into the pits for the final time, and he keeps getting black flagged, apparently. Some problems with maybe pit entry or exit somewhere along the line there for Sean, but yeah, he will not set a time in this qualifying session, which is going to be interesting, starting from the back and knowing that he has front-running pace. Sticking with Chad Lewis for the time being. Well, it looks like Chad was a bit faster than Gilbert in Sector 1, but 1.5 tenths down in Sector 2, and very twisty Sector 3 here, which the 2014 cars should deal with a bit better than their more recent compatriots. Out of the last turn we come, and Chad Lewis will go to the line. Any improvement to be had here over the 1:30.08? No, he misses out by 100th of a second on improving his qualifying time. Dylan Walker puts himself into the 3rd position in 2019. Is there any improvement on this lap? He might have gotten an off track.
Well, any improvement would have done for Chad Lewis, but he just couldn't find one. Dylan Walker also just a bit scruffy through the final sector, losing about half a second. I think it's the traction here, just towards the end of the hairpins there, where they begin to struggle towards the end of the lap, and then downhill, tightening. A bit narrow there, opens up a little bit on the exit for Dan Stevens. He'll also just give a tiny kiss to the gravel. Mid-sector was good. Oh, tantalizingly short.
Oh, yeah, that's only about 2.5 hundredths or so down on his fastest time. And with that, the session is over. Hard cut to the end of the session, which means we can go straight into the grid for the first of our 21 lap races here tonight. Aaron Gilbert has got the overall fastest time in qualifying. He'll start on pole alongside the pole man for the 2019 cars, Lockhart Brownlee. Chad Lewis and Dylan Walker will share the second row, with Joseph Mahoney putting himself into P2 in the 2014 cars. A great final lap from him, starting alongside the wild card of Simon Mazzomo. In 7th place, we will see Remo Grossenbach start alongside Billy Rowley, 2 thousandths between them, with Henry King and Daniel Stevens rounding out your top 10. Gavin Cox and Robbie Bradbury are your top 12.
And Colin Bruns is in the 13th here, just ahead of Martin Lipsky. Dean Alessi, the only 2019 class car on this page, ahead of Gary Watson. And then Sean Campbell, no qualifying time. He tried. We're not sure exactly what he got wrong. So something to watch what he can do in race 1. And then the finishing order of race 1 sets the grid for race 2. So you certainly could come through the field in this first race to then contend for the podium or even a victory in race 2.
Got to survive lap 1, though. It can be very easy to have contact through the first turn, and that can ruin your race. Well, 21 laps on the cards for race 1 with a compulsory pit stop. And that's the window for that is going to open at the end of lap 2 and then close at the end of lap 20, I believe. So we'll find our way through to that strategy whenever these guys decide to pit. The track temperature being what it is, I think we'll be seeing drivers go a fair way into the race. It's gone up a couple of degrees from qualifying, but still not quite hot enough to justify going really short on your first stint. But we'll put all of that to the side for the moment, because we've got a race start just about ready to go here. Revs rising as the green flag is raised by Barney up in the flag stand. V8SCOPS supports at Okayama is go, and that's a bit of a slow start from Aaron Gilbert. He almost crept off the line there. Very smooth getaway though, but up the inside is going to come Lockhart Brownlee through the first turn. Side by side, 2 deep. Dylan Walker and Chad Lewis, they'll exchange places there, and Gilbert will reassert the overall race lead from Lockhart Brownlee. And this is a good opportunity here to see where the 2019 cars are actually faster. Brownlee gets a great exit from turn 2, dives up the inside at Atwood, and he is going to lead coming onto the back straight.
Well, surely everything's tyres. It's all tyres, and Lockhart Brownlee's had a pretty good start. This is onto the longest straight of the racetrack, fanning out, looking for a big braking zone at the end. Gilbert wants that lead back.
Yeah, certainly does, up the inside at the hairpin. And we will see just enough room being given by the drivers there, and Gilbert will lead into the twisty final sector of the lap, side by side here between Joe Mahoney and Remo Grossenbach. And Mahoney forced a bit wide. Big snap from Billy Rowley, and he'll recover it, get up the inside of Mahoney, with Simon Mazzomo stuck right in the middle of a battling pack of 2014 cars. He's losing touch with the top 3 in 2019 as another slide, this time for Joe Mahoney, struggling to put the power down there. And oh, it looks like Henry King gets a bit of a slide on. And that is going to send him all the way to the back. Contact through the penultimate turn.
I also lost touch in 2019 for what that's worth. But yeah, just towards the end of the final lap, a little bit of contact there. They were all so tightly packed together. Cars in theoretically different classes, sort of still needing to fight for the same real estate.
Yeah, everyone seems to be having some kind of issue here. Compulsory pit stop window is apparently open now, so drivers can come in now if they want to. All of this started by, well, Henry King thought he could go up the inside there with the pass between Mahoney and Stevens, and then unfortunately he got a bit rear-ended by Robbie Bradbury, who himself was trying to make a move on Colin Bruns. That's what happens when you have to jam on the brakes.
So decent couple laps there from Chad Lewis. A really tidy move on Dylan Walker moved him ahead up into second in his class. Who jumps early for the pit stop window? I don't think anyone inside of the top 5, but certainly drivers like Sean Campbell or Henry King or Dean Alessi could think about it.
Yeah, it might be beneficial depending on how long we expect the pit stop to be. I don't think there's going to be much in the way of fuel drop, but taking tyres is certainly an option that I think just about every driver is going to take. Campbell up to P6 now in the 2014 class. Aaron Gilbert setting the fastest lap of the race early on. 1 minute 30.8, the time for everyone else to chase, as they will now try to manage the heat of these tyres. A lot of temperature build-up through the first couple of turns here.
So Sean Campbell started 17th outright. He's now 11th outright. He's made about 5 or 6 spots in class as well. And he's shaping up on another one of the 2019 cars.
Chad Lewis starting to make some moves here and get a bit closer to Lockhart Brownlee. He and Dylan Walker keeping Lockhart very close company, as there goes Sean Campbell up the inside of Robbie Bradbury and gets into the overall top 10, remaining in 6th in the 2014 class. But a very nice move indeed from the driver who could not set a time in qualifying. Got a bit of clear air as well ahead of him, so should be able to set some fast times there. Mazzomo, meanwhile, gets past Billy Rowley finally, and that will push Rowley back into the clutches of Dan Stevens for the top 3 in the 2014 class.
Oh, hello. Careful.
Oh. All right, interesting. Dan Stevens, very close indeed. Coming down the start-finish straight, pokes the nose out. Does he get on the brakes deep enough into the first turn? Rowley is going to fight it, but Stevens has the inside line. Oh, bit of contact there on the exit. You can see that Dan is setting up a potential over-under there, but he can't get on the power in time to get back past Rowley. Oh, Billy is defending well for the moment.
Sure is, but Joe Mahoney and Sean Campbell will get a bit closer to them. That's a decent-sized lockup. Puts you a little bit wide, not where you want to be exiting at Wood Curve, because a tight line through the exit really can launch you onto the straight with a bit more speed. This is Rowley, Stevens, Mahoney, Campbell already on the back of both of them, closing more than half a second last lap.
Yeah, they're doing well catching up to them as Rowley goes very deep in the hairpin. On the power early, though, to get out of the corner and keep the position from Mahoney, but there's brakes locking up everywhere you care to look. Now this is a 4-car pack for 3rd place in 2014. Grossenbacher is getting away now, and I think Remo's going to be happy with that as Campbell moves past Mahoney. Nice move coming into the hairpin there, late on the brakes and pulling it up well. Campbell, very skilled driver in many different classes of car. Meanwhile, Gary Watson locks up the rears, and that's going to allow Henry King past.
Sure will. Now exiting the final corner. That looks like it's been wide from Daniel Stevens. 3 cars looking to go by him. Rowley ahead. Campbell gets another one for free.
And Mahoney does too, apparently. How hard is Stevens going to fight this? Has the inside for turn 2. Might induce a bit of understeer there, and oh, it's so tempting to get on the power early through turn 2, but it's a little bit off camber, and it actually goes over a little rise. So you need to be careful when you get on the accelerator in cars as powerful as these. That was a big slide there from Mahoney, and this is what happened to Stevens.
This was something I saw a lot of people struggling with in qualifying, was traction right there. Then suddenly the pressure is on you into the final corner. He's got in way too hot. Really struggling with like a lock-up or too much speed there for Stevens.
Yeah, well, your left side tyres are already loaded up from the exit of the hairpin and then the penultimate corner as well. There's been a change between Walker and Lewis. Looks like a bit of a loss of traction there for Chad coming out of Atwood. And Dylan Walker says, "Thank you very much, mate. I will make the move into the hairpin." And that was a solid move there. Now Walker can chase down Brownlee, who continues to lead the 2019 class by about a second.
So the number 35 gets that 10-second penalty. Robbie Bradbury, it's going to extend his pit stop time.
So, while the number 2 nearly spun themselves into turn 10, the 35 ran in deep and made contact, is the note from race control, which is exactly what we saw on the replay. The fight continues between Sean Campbell and Billy Rowley. Campbell moving his way past, but Rowley is willing to fight this one in the KRF number 89. That's a bit wide there for Campbell. Slight lockup on the way into Atwood. There's gravel on the racetrack out there. That wouldn't help his exit grip. And now Rowley is alongside, coming down the back straight. Doesn't have the opportunity to cut back into the slipstream, but he has enough momentum to pull up the inside into the hairpin. Campbell, though, is a very wily competitor. He knows that he can... I thought for a second he would go for the wider exit, the straighter exit, and get back up the inside of Rowley, but apparently no dice. I was going to say, Sean Campbell, a deft hand in many different types of car, particularly GTPs. He's very competitive in that class. Does a lot of racing, he does, and apparently he's getting some more in V8s here as he gets back up the inside of Billy Rowley to take third place back in 2014.
Well, super ambitious dive, but he pulled it up. He got great rotation with the inside tyres on the curb. And I think he'll be able to call that one. Gavin Cox is going to be one of the first drivers who pit. Now, has he practiced the pit entry this time after Lockhart Brownlee gave him a little bit of a hurry up in practice? I think he has.
Yeah, that's Bradbury coming in to take his pit stop nice and early. He'll add that 10 seconds on, and I think that's a smart decision from Bradbury, knowing that he has a penalty and pitting when he does. If a safety car comes out, he won't lose out too much. That 10-second penalty will effectively be erased. Well, for now, Dan Stevens has an awful lot of pressure underneath him here. Not only is Joe Mahoney at the back of him, his teammate Colin Bruns is on the back of him as well. And Stevens is continuing to struggle for traction. The car is just looking a little bit grumpy through a lot of these turns.
This is Pack now. He's used up the tyres a fair bit in places with the moves that he's tried to make, and also the gravel that he's disturbed a little bit in a couple of places.
Look at the wheel work from Stevens, and this is where he's been having a lot of his issues. He's struggling to get the front turned in there, and he is wiggling the wheel on the exits there to try and keep the car straight as the rears break traction. I think he's driving maybe a bit too hard for the conditions, or potentially his setup hasn't quite been tuned to that track temperature. Regardless, he's not looking completely in control of that car, but he can't afford to back off, because Mahoney is right there. That's another little lockup from Stevens. Mahoney almost finds a way through on the outside of 2. Can try and straight line the exit here and get up the inside at Atwood. It looks like that might be the case here. The Race Honours number 36 draws ever closer, pokes the nose out and goes very deep, but I think that's too deep for Mahoney. He locks up and almost gets into Stevens, who himself goes wide and dips up the inside onto the back straight. Very nice racing.
The old Atwood switcheroo, he half covered off the inside to Daniel Stevens. Really tempted a massive move from Mahoney, who just got it wrong. And now they've both exchanged a couple of lockups here and there and really struggling, fighting these cars. Well, Colin Bruns watches on from behind.
Yeah, Bruns has got a front row seat to this, and apparently so has Gavin Cox. Another middle finger racing car, this time in the 2019 class. Cox is running a distant 5th in the 2019s at the moment in his 555 Mustang. Simon Mazzomo is, well, I'm just double checking the gap at the moment. Mazzomo is nearly 9 seconds ahead of him at the moment, so not ideal for Gavin Cox. Daniel Stevens, though, I think his tyres have given their best here for the first stint. 9 laps complete and into the pits he comes. About 15 to 16 laps is the projected stint length for a full tank of fuel here. So that'll put Stevens very nicely in the margin to get to victory.
Dean Alessi will also get...
At least victory in getting to the end of the race.
We haven't had many drivers from too far up front in the field pit. Daniel Stevens will probably be one of the highest. This is the outright lead where Brownlee's just managed to chip back a little bit at Aaron Gilbert and needs to do so. Dylan Walker's also picking up the pace after that sort of opening laps moves. Chad Lewis has dropped back just a little bit, 3rd in his class.
Yeah, potentially the 2019 cars are taking better care of their tyres than the 2014 cars are. It's something that we've been talking about all season as the track temperature is now over 40 Celsius. That is quite a big jump. So not ideal for drivers who were thinking the temperature would remain around the sort of mid-30s. But
slow down for Walker, yeah. Still carrying it from turn 8. Just cleared it. It's going to cost him a bit on this lap. Last lap was a 131.7 for Walker, and this lap is a 132.5, so about 0.8 of a second lost to cutting the track in the infield.
Yeah, about 1.8 seconds or so back from Brownlee now, but we've been talking about it all season, how the 2019 cars haven't quite been able to get the pace that the 2014 cars have been able to, because they are a bit twitchier, those newer cars. They have a bit more aero instability, despite having more aerodynamic grip and potentially a bit of a harsher power delivery too. So it's a very tough challenge to get them around the track. But for the moment, with Brownlee getting ever closer to Gilbert, seems that potentially there's some more life in those tyres for the 2019s as Sean Campbell gets up the inside of Simon Mazzomo. Now into the overall top 6. A mammoth run is being set up there by the American from the back of the field.
Yeah, and he'll get such a great opportunity in race 2 to compound upon it, because it resets the grid for race 2 after race 1 here. So all the gains that he makes, he gets to continue to carry on, and I think more could yet happen. Dylan Walker's going to pit in. Chad Lewis had started to catch him a little bit, so that was a bit of cat and mouse between those two, and here's how we're attacking it.
Oh, big oversteer there for Walker on the way in, and I don't know if he overshot pit entry there. There's no black flag, but it looked close. Colin Bruns is going to bring his 2014 Holden Commodore in as well, so that's 2 cars pitting on this lap, joining Stevens, King, Alessi, Bradbury, and also Martin Lipsky, who pitted half a lap ago.
Brownlee's just getting a little bit back. He's Dylan Walker exiting the pits after just 10 seconds. One of the quicker pit stops we've seen. Colin Bruns is going to go significantly beyond that at 12.7 seconds. There is a difference, of course, the fuel burn and the fuel tank size between the two classes.
Indeed, 2019 tends to refuel a bit quicker than 2014. Henry King, meanwhile, pitting 3 laps before. Oh, he did get past Bruns, but he's run deep in turn 2. Not ideal. Now his tyres are going to be dirty. Bruns has to get on the brakes there. if that was just a full-on straight line from turn 2 to Atwood, then that probably wouldn't be a problem for Bruns. But it's that Moss S really complicates things, doesn't it?
Yep, so another look. The braking zone at the hairpin. Biggest stop on the racetrack. Little bit of rear locking, I think. And, ooh.
Yeah,
all the way off the road.
Oh, and he dumps a lot of gravel on the exit of the hairpin as well, so traction is going to be at a premium, as all of our leaders just about have come in. Gilbert, Brownlee, Lewis, Mazzomo, Mahoney, and Cox. That will leave Grossenbacher, Campbell, and Rowley yet to come into the lane. So, yeah, everyone basically getting their pit stops done by the halfway point of the race there, as it looks like Lockhart Brownlee is going to get out ahead of Aaron Gilbert. So is Dylan Walker. The longer pit stop times for the 2014 cars, putting Gilbert back to overall P3. Everyone was clear through the pits meanwhile, not seeing any black flags to anyone's name. And Mahoney finally exits the lane behind, and he is going to fall behind Henry King and Colin Bruns as well.
Undercut was very profitable for Dylan Walker because he was sitting sort of 2.5 seconds behind Lockhart Brownlee. They had very similar pit stop times. And then suddenly, they're all right together there. And of course, Walker's jumped Gilbert as well with that difference in the fueling. Is Campbell going for the outright race lead if he can get it?
Yeah, this could be interesting here for Campbell. He's caught up to Remo Grossenbacher. Now, both of these guys should be looking to come into the pits soon, and it looks like, yep, they will both go in. Billy Rowley, I would expect to follow them in unless he's managed to pull some magic with his car. He is going to stay out as Billy Rowley, going that extra lap. That's interesting. His tyres probably won't be in great shape. He might end up losing a lot more time out of that.
Yeah, I mean, undercut looks good. Track temp is ramping up a little bit. Yeah, certainly. It's a battle of drivers who have all stopped already.
Yeah, this fight has been intensifying quite a bit with King, Bruns, Mahoney, and Cox all occupying the same bit of racetrack here. None of them really having any advantage over the other. And very quick stops once again there for Grossenbacher and Campbell. And Campbell actually with the quickest stop of any of the 2014 cars at 10.4 seconds. 1 second faster than Grossenbacher. And I wonder if he'll have the fuel to get to the end.
Interesting. Just Billy Rowley, who hasn't stopped. Henry King got that tyre undercut on these drivers, Colin Bruns, Joe Mahoney, but they are all coming right back at him. Their tyres should be just a little bit nicer. Campbell gets ahead of Grossenbacher.
Yep, King hasn't been mistake-free either. It was lucky that little run off the track at turn 2 didn't turn into something worse with Bruns coming up on him. There goes Mahoney up the inside of Bruns, and just enough room is given to the inside of the corner. But right there is the great part about battling through that hairpin. You have the outside line and you can squeeze the driver who's trying to pass you. That meant that Mr. Mahoney could not get the apex speed he needed to really maximize the exit of the corner. Rowley, as you saw, just coming into the pit lane, and he will be the last driver to take his compulsory pit stop. Together then for Bruns and Mahoney. Gavin Cox sweeping through to take 2 positions at once.
Way too optimistic from Mahoney. It's a move we've seen work before, but not like this.
No, Bruns was already angling towards the inside of the corner, so Mahoney would have probably done well to back out there. Race control might take a look at that. Mahoney eventually does get by Bruns at turn 1, but not without losing a big chunk of time to Henry King and Gavin Cox. Here's your top 3. Lockhart Brownlee and Dylan Walker leading in the 2019 class, with Aaron Gilbert, our 2014 leader, shadowing them and bringing the fastest lap down to a 1 minute 30.6. Gilbert still has pace here. Can he go for overall victory?
Yeah, this seems like the stage on the fresher tyres where Gilbert was strong in the race start, And of course, through the middle, it changed a little bit. Brownlee's pace sort of started to come back towards him. So we'll see if there's a couple of laps here where Gilbert can be really strong. Brownlee and Walker have sort of got to worry about each other to the point where Aaron Gilbert's not quite their fight.
Yeah, for sure. Well, out of the final turn they come, and they will begin the 15th lap of this race, making it 7 laps to go. So, not too long left here in race 1 at Okayama, and no safety car interruptions for the time being, as the fastest lap now goes to Sean Campbell, a 1 minute 30.2. He's pushing very hard. I think another part of that might be him taking a bit less fuel at the pit stop as well.
Yeah, and he just blew past Chad Lewis and into 4th outright. So it doesn't really matter greatly, but it shows the kind of speed that Campbell's got at the moment.
Alessi and Bradbury, battle of the Mustangs, Middle Finger Racing versus Pacific Esports Racing. And Bradbury has been languishing at the back of the field ever since his 10-second penalty in the pit lane. And he has some older tyres than Alessi as well. So potentially we'll see the gap between them widen. Gilbert, meanwhile, has gotten past Dylan Walker for outright second place. And it looked like a smooth move up the inside of the hairpin. Walker gave Gilbert plenty of room. And, well, Aaron certainly took it.
Yeah, it's an interesting position to be in for Dylan Walker, because you're like, hey, you're going to get between me and Lockhart Brownlee, who I'm battling, who I'm so close to. But then in the end, just let him go, and maybe he's going to hope that Aaron Gilbert has a dig at Lockhart Brownlee that opens up the door for him. That was an example of how good fresh tyres can be.
Yeah, Rowley passing Stevens at the hairpin there pretty significantly. Grossenbacher, meanwhile, the next car to pass Chad Lewis there, and Grossenbacher gets up to 3rd in 2014. Meanwhile, Gilbert running 0.4 of a second faster than Lockhart Brownlee on the previous lap. So by this point next lap, he might already be past him.
Got great traction, he got great straight line speed, Aaron Gilbert. So he did turn 6 outward corner very well, just to keep this pressure on Lockhart Brownlee. But the longer this goes on, I think it then favours the way the tyres wear on Brownlee's car versus Gilbert.
Yeah, we noticed before the pit cycle started that okay, that's an interesting race control message there. No further action, netcode between Colin Bruns and Joe Mahoney, but Joe did get a warning. Probably shouldn't stick your nose in like that. So Joe will keep that in mind for race 2, I'm sure. But yeah, back to my point. The 2019 cars we noticed were holding on to their pace a little bit better than the 2014 cars were. So Gilbert might be starting to run out of pace already here with 5 laps complete on this set of tyres for the both of them here at the front of this field.
Great place to keep an eye on the differences between the cars. I don't know if it's like an optical illusion, but Gilbert certainly looks pretty good on the brakes there, and you've got to come back around to a late apex here, straighten the car to be able to really open the throttle.
Into the slipstream now, down the back straight, past the trees on the right, look for the 100 marker. Just before that is when you want to brake. Brownlee catches the grass on the way into the hairpin, and the car was swaying around a bit in the mid-corner there. Brownlee in trouble through these slower parts of the racetrack now. More gravel being dragged onto the racetrack in that section as well, which isn't going to help anyone.
No, and it makes a really annoying sound in a race car as well. It flicks, the plastic or the metal or whatever's the bottom of the car. I look at Lockhart Brownlee there under pressure. Gilbert, I definitely feel like is stronger, but for all the reasons that we've pointed out with this racetrack, the difference between the two cars, making an overtake and making a clean overtake will be difficult. This is Well, at least F1 thought it was a pretty tight and short racetrack.
Yeah, for top-level single-seaters, it's a bit cramped, but for touring cars and GT cars, it's pretty much perfect. And Brownlee is starting to really crumble under the pressure from Gilbert now. It was a poor exit from the final corner, and he's just holding on through turns 1 and 2. This is the point where Aaron Gilbert may think about making his move. Getting up the inside at Atwood might be the ticket, but he stays behind, which I think might be the better decision. He can focus on the exit and get the move done at the hairpin.
Well, he got the nose underneath and he's already nose ahead. He's been pretty good in the straight line here, so that was just textbook. Make the other guy defend in turn 6. Get underneath. I'm heading for the race lead here.
Yep, Gilbert back to the outright first place on track here. Well done indeed from the reigning champion of the V8 support category and the dominant championship leader in the 2014 class. So now Brownlee, the goal I think will be to stick with Gilbert as much as he can, because Dylan Walker isn't too far away. He is looking a little bit slower than Brownlee and Gilbert though, so there might not be as much pressure. Pass between Joe Mahoney and Henry King. Mahoney getting up the inside of the hairpin and trying to complete the move around the outside at Revolver. Doesn't quite get it done. King has the apex, but he's struggling to get on the power. That's a big slide, and Mahoney thought he was going to be leading into the hairpins there, but King swings it up the inside. A little bit of a Hail Mary defense there from the number 2, who's had a tough race so far. And he's sticking tight on the exit as well. That was a good defense right there. Park the car on the apex, stop Mahoney from getting the run.
Yeah, King, of course, went super early for his tyres, so he's got a bunch of cars behind him, multiple laps fresher, probably a fair bit less heat in their tyres as that sort of builds up and accumulates, and you pick it up faster than you can dissipate it. So he's got to be very careful, he's got to be very smooth, but he's also got to put his chess pieces in the right place.
Yeah, it is a chess game pretty much every single race here in the V8 support category. 3 laps to go, and we'll see Mahoney again have an attempt at King there, maybe to try and unsettle him. King does run a bit wide in Atwood, but he brings the apex back right at the corner exit, so maintains the position. And tiny bit of a better run out of the corner, but now the slipstream kicks in for Mahoney, and he shows the nose once more.
Oh, he's in so hot here. Oh!
Little tappy tap, and it's basically a repeat of the last lap, isn't it? Mahoney and King side by side through Revolver. Gavin Cox is loving this. He could see a couple extra outright positions here, though not for any points in his class. This time Mahoney is wise to King's potential dive at the left-hand hairpin. And he almost did the same thing that he did to Colin Bruns a little bit earlier. Finally gets by. A little bit of a shuffle and a slight tap to Henry King. And Joe Mahoney is finally through.
Well, there we go. You think that's going to be the end of it with the tyre difference and all in play, but Mahoney now needs to be the one who sustains the pressure and drives perfectly with minimal mistakes.
Apex at turn 1. Henry King picks up the throttle a bit earlier, or tries to at least. It doesn't translate into the run he would have wanted. And at this point, the only opportunity for Gavin Cox to get past these two is another side-by-side moment. But Cox isn't really under any pressure for position at the moment. The next car in 2019 is Robbie Bradbury, and he's about 10 seconds back from this. So Gavin just needs to focus on driving to his own pace and getting it to the end, which we are not very far from at all. Our top 3 are still close together, and it seems that Walker has been getting a few good laps run down there. 0.2 faster, or 1.5 faster than Lockhart Brownlee on the previous lap, as the white flag is out, and we only have one more circuit of Okayama International Circuit to go in this first race.
Look how close Sean Campbell is to the outright lead. He started last.
Yeah.
After his pit stop, he was 8 seconds away from the race lead. He's now 2.7, and he had a slowdown on one of the laps. He genuinely could have won this race, and you'll have to imagine that he'll go in as the favourite to win race 2. He's got the fastest lap of the race. He's just pulled 8 seconds, almost 10 seconds out of Gilbert, and he's pulling time hand and fist out of Brownlee and Walker as well.
And it seems he's put enough fuel in his car to get to the end as well. So the other 2014 competitors might be taking a couple of notes from that. You can get away with filling up the car a little bit less in the pit stop, as Sean Campbell has proved. But the 2019 lead is on, with Dylan Walker just about getting into the rear of Lockhart Brownlee. But Lockie gets the better exit, and he'll continue on towards the hairpins. Good overtaking opportunity sometimes, but most of the time it's actually pretty hard to pass in this final sector. All he's going to rely on here is a mistake from Lockhart Brownlee, and Dylan Walker will take the 2019 class win, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Brownlee doing just enough to keep him at bay. So Aaron Gilbert will take the outright victory from this one out of the final corner. Another brilliant drive from the championship leader, with Brownlee winning in 2019 class. But have a look at how close Sean Campbell ended up getting to them. He was right on the back of our 2019 top 2.
Yeah, and just 2 seconds away from that race win as well. It means that he'll start race number 2 on the second row of the grid rather than at the very, very back of the field.
Henry King picks up a little bit more gravel here towards the end. Mahoney's been getting away from him, but he's been able to keep Gavin Cox at bay. Colin Bruns trying to make up some time there on the final lap, wasn't quite able to get close enough to them. And now it just leaves Bradbury and Alessi, and then Lipsky and Watson, the last 2 cars running in each of our classes here. Bradbury down to 14th overall and P6 in 2019, down 2 outright positions from where he started. Could have gone better were it not for that penalty. And Gary Watson, unfortunately, having a couple of off-track excursions in this race, but will bring the car home in 10th in the 2014 class. Those are all of your finishes then from the first race here at Okayama, and that will set the grid for the second race of the night here. So Gilbert is your winner overall, with Brownlee taking the win in 2019. Walker very close in P2 there. As there was only 200ths of a second in between them there, it seems. Well, Sean Campbell and Remo Grossenbacher will take the podium positions in 2014, with Rowley, Stevens, Mahoney, King, Bruns, Lipsky, and Watson being your 10 cars in our older spec machines. Brownlee taking the win by half a second from Walker in 2019, with Chad Lewis another 7 seconds back from that. Simon Mazzomo, the wild card, gets P4 ahead of Cox, Bradbury, and Alessi. Well, I think that's going to set things up nicely here, David, for race 2 here. Sean Campbell, I think, is the big story.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so quick. I think by the end of the first lap, he might have been sort of 8 or 9 seconds behind Aaron Gilbert, and by the end of the race he was just 2 seconds behind. He takes the fastest lap of the race, not even by a small margin, so certainly one to watch come race 2.
Absolutely, and that second race is going to be coming up in just about 2 minutes' time. For the moment, though, we'll take a little moment to step aside here on SimSpeed TV. You're watching round 9 of V8SCOPS Supports 2025 at Okayama.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but is it enough? It's a drag race to the finish. Culver goes from 3rd to 1st in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, round 9 of V8SCOPS supports for 2025 at the beautiful Okayama International Circuit. Race 1 certainly set the stage in an interesting way, and we're going to bring ourselves into race 2 now with the results dictated, the grid for race 2. Aaron Gilbert and Lockhart Brownlee are your front row, with Dylan Walker and Sean Campbell on row 2. Remo Grossenbacher and Chad Lewis are your top 6. Then we see Simon Mizomo start 7th alongside Billy Rowley, with Daniel Stevens and Joe Mahoney rounding out your top 10. Henry King and Gavin Cox are 11th and 12th. The 7th row of the grid, Colin Bruns and Robbie Bradbury, with Dean Alessi and Martin Lipsky on row 8. Gary Watson, the lone car to be starting on row number 9, 17 cars taking to the start. Tell you what, David, this is going to be another interesting one indeed. The track temperature has gone down a few degrees.
Yeah, the clouds are coming and going, the weather's changing, and the strategy is pretty similar to last race.
Certainly will be. Has anyone learned from Sean Campbell's lightning pit stop in race 1? We'll have to get through the first stint first, though. Revs rise, and green flag drops, and away we go. Better start from Gilbert this time. A really good jump from Dylan Walker. He's going to try and get alongside Lockhart Brownlee into turn 1, and Sean Campbell right amongst them as well as the field sweeps through turn 1. Daniel Stevens with a mammoth exit there versus Chad Lewis. Already 3 positions up for the number 3. A lightning start from Stevens.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon Mizomo didn't get away particularly well, but your top 4 remain in the same order, but Campbell is now looking oh so aggressive. This is the part of the stint as well where we think that his car will be quick. The 2014 car's on the colder tyre.
Indeed. The colder conditions might be benefiting Stevens there. He was struggling with his car a bit in race 1 as they start to bring the traffic jam on into the hairpin. That's Henry King moving past Joe Mahoney, and Simon Mizomo has a front row seat to a 3-car battle right ahead of him there, 2 of them being 2014 cars. Single file for the leaders. Rowley having to look up the inside of Stevens, but it's covered off, and once again Daniel drags the brakes a bit there into the hairpin, so a bit of understeer there for the MFR number 3. A big slide again from Joe Mahoney. He's another one of the drivers who's been struggling for traction, as have most of the field in this race.
Chad Lewis has struggled on this opening lap as well, dropping 3 spots. I just think those 2014 cars were a little quicker out the gates, put him under a little bit of pressure. Looks like Mizomo under pressure there.
Yeah, Mahoney gets up the inside of him and pulls it up nicely at the apex too to stay ahead. Now there's a gap starting to form between Mahoney and Lewis. Here comes Sean Campbell, though, looking to get into the overall top 3. He's trying to find a way past Dylan Walker, but it seems that he's just taking it easy here in the opening laps. And well, if race 1 was anything to go by, taking it easy early on actually proved quite profitable for Sean Campbell. He can pick his moves and get past when he deems it necessary. Oh, that was a bit of a lock-up there from Aaron Gilbert at the front, I think, but he will maintain the lead as our field sweeps through the hairpin for the 2nd time here in this last race of the night.
It's interesting from Campbell because he's still getting good exits, he's getting good straight line speed, but then he's not trying to take the moves. It doesn't look like he could outbrake Dylan Walker or Lockhart Brownlee particularly easily right now. Let's see if that changes as the stint goes on. Track temperature at 35 Celsius, and of course Campbell just needs to make sure that Aaron Gilbert doesn't get too far away. Based on the pace that we've seen that Campbell can do, you wouldn't be worried just yet.
No, I think if he nails the pit stop, he'll be right with Gilbert for the win. He just needs to worry about those 2019 cars ahead for the time being. Aaron Gilbert with a 1 minute 30.4 to set the initial pace here. And I can see the sun starting to come out a little more now. Track temp dropped so much because the clouds were moving over the racetrack. You can see they're getting back into the sun now, coming out of turn 2. They may or may not bring the track temperature back up in just a few moments. For now, Daniel Stevens has Billy Rowley and Henry King for company as Lewis and Mahoney chase.
Tiny bit of a lock-up from Rowley now. He gets a tiny bit of the grass on the exit, costing him momentum. I think Henry King has a good run towards the hairpin here. Looks for the inside, just maybe faking braking deep a little bit here.
Oh. He got on the brakes slightly earlier, but he carried them deeper into the corner, and that almost offered him a chance to get past Rowley, but Billy is defending like an absolute animal at the moment. That's allowing Daniel Stevens to get away.
It is. Chad Lewis is trying to get back in at this
down.
race. Yeah, for Mazomo, for Alessi, but I didn't see one.
Huh, maybe it was a redress. Potentially Rowley just thought, oh, maybe that was a bit much. I'll let him have it, but alternatively, maybe a poor exit. Not entirely sure there, but all that has done is it's brought Mahoney, Mazomo, Bruns and company right into the thick of it here with this battle for the last 2 positions in the top 10.
Sean Campbell's again electing to just sit in that 4th place outright at the moment. So many places you can watch for a battle right now.
Campbell's gotten past Walker. Change for outright 3rd. Looks like that was done in the first couple of corners there, and I'm a big fan of the paint job that Sean Campbell has chosen for this one.
Makes you
We'll
want
have
to
a look
tune
at
your
Dylan
TV
Walker
to
here.
Channel 10 on a Sunday.
No, certainly does. That was wide out of turn 2 there for Dylan Walker, and duly taken by Sean Campbell. Mahoney and Lewis together now. Mahoney out braking the 2019 Holden Commodore into the hairpin and keeping the position through Revolver. Very nicely done. As, that's Bradbury getting together with Gavin Cox there. Defensive on the way into the second of our left-handers there. And Bradbury finally makes it 1 position up from where he finished in the first race. Hopefully he'll be able to escape a penalty this time.
So this is the new form of our leading group. Still Aaron Gilbert beginning to put a little bit of time into Lockhart Brownlee. Sean Campbell closing that in. A little too early for the pit stop window just yet. And you saw particularly from Henry King that if you do jump too early, then your tyres can really drop off towards the end.
Yeah, these cars have had that same characteristic for many years now. You can't push too hard early on, but now Sean Campbell's starting to bring up the temperature here on Lockhart Brownlee. Slightly wide on the way out there for the 125. And the slipstream's picked up by the wildcard entry. Defensive for Brownlee. Doesn't want Campbell to get the move on him here, but well, actually, it looks like he will. He actually lets him go, recognizes that Campbell is super quick right now, and fighting with him is just going to cost him time to Walker.
Yeah, then Campbell ran a little bit wide through the hairpin. Brownlee's just sitting, waiting, and all of a sudden Dylan Walker's right underneath his rear wing again. There's 1 second between Aaron Gilbert and Sean Campbell.
Oh, there goes up the inside there for Dylan Walker on Lockhart Brownlee, but the traction is not there. Can't get the move done into the right-hander, but potentially going for an over-under out of there too. Just no space to get the move done, and now Brownlee will every so often be checking into his mirrors here. Running a little bit into the gravel out of the final corner as well. So now the pressure is on here. Walker wants to take victory here and help extend his championship lead. A few points taken off him with Brownlee taking the win in race 1. Let's see how this works out between the former teammates.
That gravel on the exit of turn 2 is sure getting a couple of workouts. It gets disturbed by a couple of cars every lap. It's that off-camber nature of turn 2 that really just sees you sometimes walk out a little bit wide there. And slide in a tiny touch of grass from Brownlee as well. I think Walker stands a chance.
Yeah, he's not quite close enough to dive at the hairpin, though. He'll have to wait for another opportunity later on in the lap, or maybe at this point next lap. Early turn-in for Brownlee, though. That's wide on the exit. Well, he can position his car defensively into revolver, but you can tell that Lockhart Brownlee is getting a little shaken here by Dylan Walker being all over the back of him. And look ahead as well, Sean Campbell is now only half a second behind Aaron Gilbert for the 2014 lead. We have 2 lead battles going on at the same time here.
Yeah, beautiful, and still a bit to play out in the second race as far as the pit stop strategy. About to start lap 7, and it's probably lap 10. Well, lap 9 might be the earliest that you think about going as well, so still just got to play this out for a little bit, and then the pit stops, and then the run home.
Yeah, we saw drivers pitting around about lap 7, lap 8 to start things off in race 1, but that track temperature was a lot hotter. There's the gravel trap that you were talking about, David. Pretty much everyone at least putting half a wheel into it.
3, 4, 4.5. Can I get 4.5?
Yeah, let's call it 4.5.
It's been a pleasure doing business with you. Thank you.
And everybody wins. Well, there's a little bit more space now between Brownlee and Walker as Gary Watson lock up into turn 1, running deep into the gravel there. First time we've seen a car really go off at that part of the racetrack, and that's going to make turn 1 exit a little slippery for everyone else. Oh, continue
turn
on to
2.
Turn 2. Yeah.
A little slippery for himself. I thought that Watson may have actually ran out of fuel at the end of race 1. His last lap was missing about 8 seconds or so, and he kind of looked slow as he came to the line, which was odd. But again, everyone has made pit stops in race 1. It's the same strategy computation for race 2.
Yeah, another part of it might be that Watson was already at the back and he just decided to cruise home, knowing that any other positions may not have come to him. But worth thinking about. Henry King versus Billy Rowley for P5 and 6 in the 2014 class. And Rowley is continuing to show that he's got the pace to fight with these top guys. Lock up ahead for Daniel Stevens. That brings him to within a second of this battle. So Henry King could potentially find his way through there. And there's your overall and 2014 lead. And on the bottom of your screen, Aaron Gilbert and Sean Campbell now together, and Sean is nailing the exit of Atwood.
Yeah, he is. The question is what he does, because I think he has been deliberately patient in the first half of this race, and I think he is deliberately patient again.
Yeah, he knows that he has a pace advantage. He can take his time with this. Meanwhile, Stevens running out of time before King and Rowley catch up to him. Stevens was reasonably quick on the last lap, but Rowley ran a 1:31.5 to Stevens' 1:31.8, and then there was that slight lock-up for Stevens into turn 1. So Billy Rowley looks to be the paciest of the drivers in this little subgroup. Joe Mahoney not too far behind these guys either. He's got Chad Lewis pushing him along, so we could see a four-way 2014 fight here.
Stevens got that lightning standing start, but now they're starting to come back towards him a little bit.
Into the pits comes Dylan Walker. Lockhart Brownlee. Got my positions confused there. First driver to pit in the race, followed in by Chad Lewis and Simon Mazzomo. So the 2019 cars are pitting first. And it looks like Gavin Cox is going to join them there. All 2019 cars on the way into pit lane. That only leaves Dean Alessi, Robbie Bradbury and Dylan Walker of that class yet to take their stop. And I wonder if Lockhart Brownlee is looking for that undercut on Dylan Walker to put a bit more space between them. I think he saw that Walker had the undercut on him last race. and he's going to try and mitigate that early on.
I think he's tried to pull the Uno reverse card and thought that track position would be pretty important. I think if Walker goes long now, there could be an offset in the end that could benefit Walker. Certainly, Brownlee's thinking track position. He might be even trying to undercut Gilbert and Campbell.
That's a possibility.
Like if he can put Gilbert and Campbell between himself and Walker.
Yeah. Not a bad idea. Yeah. I like to see if it ends up working out that way. Don't forget as well that Sean and Lockie are teammates at Orbit Drop Bear Motorsports, so they could be coordinating that. Meanwhile, in comes Dylan Walker, in comes Daniel Stevens, the first of our 2014 cars to take a stop. Yeah, his tyres certainly out of it now. 9 laps into this race. Walker responding nicely to Brownlee's pit stop, but I did notice as we were focusing on Walker on the last lap, he had a big oversteer moment into the hairpin, so that might have hurt him a little bit. Brownlee is going to run by, and Walker does have the faster pit stop, but Brownlee is well ahead into turn 1.
Yeah, I think that's just that undercut. I think there is a second or so in it. Going from hot tires to cool tires, they really like to be cold. They fire up quick. That's Gilbert getting fishtaily.
Oh, absolutely. He's going to be fishing for a bit more rear tire temperature, a bit less rear tire temperature at this point in time.
Sashimi.
We are in Japan after all.
Just talking about not cooking your fish, that's all.
True, actually, yes. Fair enough. I'm a bit slow on the references today. Been a long day, but we will see our 2014 leaders stay out for at least another lap here, and the majority of our 2014 class is going long in this one. Looks like all of our 2019 cars have come into the lane, so won't be seeing much more from them for a while. Here's Remo Grossenbacher. Out of revolver in the following corner, a big snap, but managing to recover it. Some lightning quick reflexes.
Yeah, not doing so bad in this race in class as well. Running third, managed to be clear of King and Rowley and Mahoney and some of those other drivers that had the potential to match his pace. Just found a good pocket of clean air to be consistent, except we just saw an example of maybe overdriving it a little bit. What does Campbell do?
Now, what does he do? There's no opportunity to get up the inside there. Or there might have been, but he decided not to take it. It's always interesting, that back straight, because there's that little left-hand kink in it just before the hairpin. Sometimes you think that the driver in front of you is going defensive when they're actually not. They're just following the natural curve of the racetrack. But now, here's the opportunity. Shows the nose. Oh, he's running quite a bit of rearward brake bias, apparently, Campbell. I haven't seen a car move around like that in a braking zone in a while.
Yeah, it could be in lap. It's about time, approaching the halfway point. So, passing pit entry. We're going to get Gilbert. We're going to get Campbell. Try to overcut, which will be a tough thing to do. But we know he's got a lot of pace in reserve that I think he just hasn't shown at all.
Yeah, being right up behind Gilbert, he wasn't running at his ultimate pace. So, Gilbert, the second of our 2014 cars to pull the trigger on a pit stop. He's followed in by his teammate Henry King, as well as Billy Rowley. And we'll see if Martin Lipsky and Gary Watson will jump in as well. Actually, Gilbert was the third to come in. Colin Bruns came in 1.7 laps ago. And now Lockhart Brownlee will get the jump on Aaron Gilbert there. And that's at least a few seconds. Even Walker's managed to get past Gilbert there. But as we saw in race 1, give it a couple of laps and the 2014 car will come alive.
Yeah, so a couple of laps of undercut for Brownlee, as well as his car class having slightly shorter pit stops. Jumps him and Dylan Walker ahead of Aaron Gilbert.
King versus Stevens for 10th overall, 6th in class. And Stevens running a bit preemptively defensive there. King has a 2-lap undercut on Stevens, and it's the same for Billy Rowley just behind as well. So with Stevens, it seems, being one of the drivers who's struggling the most with tyre heat build-up, King and Rowley might be right on him in the next few corners here. See the apex speed from Henry King, and taking a tighter, straighter exit from the hairpin as well. He's focusing on setting his car up for a move.
Sure is. Just a tiny bit wide through Piper there, but you're right, there's a tyre offset that advantages those behind Daniel Stevens. It advantages Henry King and Billy Rowley a little bit. Remo Grossenbacher comes in, but Sean Campbell does not.
This is curious from Sean Campbell. I wasn't expecting him to stay out this long. Joe Mahoney's doing the same thing, though, and it seems that Martin Lipsky, at least, is going to go long as well. Haven't seen any move towards the pits from Grossenbacher, or actually, no, Grossenbacher just coming in. Haven't seen any moves from Gary Watson into the pit lane either, but Grossenbacher comes out just behind Lipsky. In terms of, well, I mean, I don't know if Sean Campbell and Joe Mahoney will cost themselves much time in the pits. I think Grossenbacher might be stuck there, aside from passing Lipsky in the pit lane. Henry King, though, up the inside at Atwood, gets the move done on Stevens and moves into 10th place overall.
The inside gets a really good exit there typically, and Billy Rowley also got that good run, but the slipstream begins to kick in past about 200 k's an hour, and it saves Daniel Stevens from Billy Rowley also trying to double up.
Problem for King now is he's got Simon Mazzomo ahead of him, and Mazzomo has tyres that are 4.5 laps old at the moment. He's also in a 2019 car, which it's proven to be a bit slower there. That's a late move from Rowley. Almost gets into Daniel Stevens, but Dan is a wily competitor. He opened the steering to give him room, and he's going to try up the inside there. Leans on Rowley, sliding on the exit of the corner, struggling for traction out of the hairpin as he seemed to be all night. Campbell finally comes into the lane, and he has gotten Aaron Gilbert. The overcut worked.
Yeah, again, a lot of fuel saving in the first stint from Sean Campbell leads to a quick pit stop in the middle. He comes out just ahead of Gilbert, and this is perfect. And only 1.3 seconds behind Lockhart Brownlee if he's going for that overall win as well.
Gilbert also had to pass Walker on that previous lap as well, apparently. So that would have cost him a little more time versus Campbell. Well, now Sean can be unleashed. He can have a go at Lockhart Brownlee, see if he can take overall victory on his V8SCOPS supports debut after making his debut in the main game a couple of weeks ago. Here comes Henry King, meanwhile. Got Simon Mazzomo right ahead of him, and he'll be concerned about Billy Rowley. He'll want to try and get past Mazzomo ASAP. Almost loses the rear end on the way into the hairpin. Maybe gives a bump to Mazzomo at the apex as well, and definitely a bump on the exit. Mazzomo is struggling to keep his car straight there. Runs wide onto the marbles, and big slide across the curb. Left a tyre track on it as well. Almost rubbing fenders between the 2014 and 2019 cars. There's a spin for Martin Lipsky there right ahead. Lipsky, the only car other than Gary Watson to not come into the pits yet, and I think those tyres have finally given up for the 32.
He'll have to as well because of the mechanical black flag that he's got. Well, he had to pit regardless. He's got Chad Lewis behind him. Lewis, of course, has already stopped.
So what happened here? Oh, Lewis weren't going deep into the hairpin. He might have been able to make the apex, but yeah, Lipsky getting a fair whack there. And, well, yes, he would have had to pit anyway, but the mechanical black flag is not going to help him out. No fast repairs in V8SCOPS, so there's going to be plenty of time extra spent in the pits there. As Sean Campbell moves past Lockhart Brownlee down the back straight to take the overall lead. The wild card leads the way, but he's gone too deep into the hairpin. Oh, that's not ideal there for Sean Campbell. He'll have some trouble there. Aaron Gilbert sees another chance at victory.
I think Lipsky actually ran out of fuel on his way into the pit lane there as well, because it would have been right to the end of the range. And then that cost him a bit more fuel than he thought.
I wonder if he was already coughing by the time Chad Lewis was coming up on him. That might have been the reason Lewis got into him in the hairpin. A little bit less speed for Lipsky.
Yeah.
Well, there's a mystery that will have to remain a mystery for the time being. We've got 6 laps to go in this race, and out of the pits comes Lipsky there.
It's still crabbing, is it?
Yeah, actually, it looked kind of sideways on the exit. No, and he's going very slow. Yeah, that car's crabbing. Oh, yeah. So not enough repairs done to really straighten out the car, but he would have gotten the mandatory repairs out of the way at least. But he'll have to come back into the pits, spend more time getting the car fixed, and that will put him dead last if he isn't already, which he is. I'm amazed that Gary Watson has managed to keep the car going this long. The number 6 still hasn't pitted. That's 15 laps into the race. He must have loaded that thing up.
Yeah, not sure exactly what he's doing. Gilbert stayed real close to Campbell here. I wonder if Campbell's needed to enter a little bit of fuel saving as well. Well, I think he has.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was able to pull off the fuel save and the quick pit stop in race 1 because he spent a lot of his time making his way up through the field. When you're driving in traffic, it's a lot easier to save fuel. You can just lift off into the corners because you wouldn't have been able to get up the inside anyway. But now, he's actually racing against people similar to his pace. Campbell may or may not have tried the same thing, and it hasn't worked out for him because he hasn't had as much opportunity to save that fuel.
Yeah, coasts about 20 metres into turn 1, not much.
I'm just looking at the attitude of the car here. Try and figure out what's going on there. Gilbert's definitely got the run out of turn 2. It's not going to be enough to make the move at Atwood, but Campbell will help Gilbert out a little bit by running slightly deep. Now there's another opportunity for Gilbert to sweep by at the hairpin. He'll keep the nose showing and get on the brakes a little later. Draw alongside Sean Campbell into the hairpin. Room is given by the wildcard entry, but he translates it into a beautiful exit and will keep Gilbert on the suboptimal line around these 2 left-handers. And Aaron's going to have to wait another couple of corners.
Gilbert's going to try to get underneath him again, and then Campbell had to save fuel there. Gilbert's like, well, hang on, is there space down the inside? So Campbell's struggling to defend, and he's really focusing his fuel saving through this middle sector rather than turn 1 or turn 7.
Yeah, I think that's the smart thing to do. You know, Okayama, from right about this point all the way up to the hairpin, it's hard to really save fuel because you have got these long braking zones, yes, but such high speeds that lifting and coasting is just going to open the opportunity for the driver behind. If you can save fuel anywhere, it's in the final sector where moves aren't as easily made. 1, 2. Wait for it.
I feel like we both got activated like sleeper agents.
Yeah, 3, 4. Call that 4? Yeah. 5. Oh, man. Fun times. Well, in the midst of all of that, it looks like Campbell's managed to get a little gap on Gilbert there, but was he saving fuel in the braking zone there? The gap closed.
I think he definitely was. He's got the advantage of his teammate out front to help him save. Here's Chad Lewis, not in his own class here, which has been the story of his race too.
Henry King majorly sideways there as Chad Lewis is fighting to keep Billy Rowley behind him, but Billy loves sending up the inside here. Lewis gives him room. but has better traction around the outside, defending the position through the right-hander. And now it's Rowley's turn to get the straighter exit, but side by side through the penultimate corner. Oh, this doesn't always work out. They're going to slow each other up here. Rowley does not succeed in getting past, runs a little bit wide out of the final turn, and Daniel Stevens sees a chance at a 2014 top 5, potentially staring him down.
Campbell's saving everywhere. He won't pass Lockhart Brownlee. He just lifted massively into 2. Lifts big time into Atwood. He needs all the help he can get. He's getting some help, but he needs it.
Oh, slow down for Henry King there. That opens up the opportunity for both Rowley and Stevens to get by. And speaking of getting by, Campbell, well, he gets up the inside of Brownlee, but he decides not to commit to the move. I think he might be using Brownlee's slipstream to fuel save.
Yeah, he is big time. If Brownlee wasn't there, he'd be in trouble. Henry King just a little bit far back. Sorry, off Daniel Stevens.
Mahoney just getting through on Mazomo there for 10th overall. Mahoney remains in 7th in the 2014 class. Coming up to 2 laps to go now. I think Campbell is doing enough for the moment to claim the 2014 win, but we can't speak too soon. Aaron Gilbert, a much more seasoned competitor in these cars than Campbell is, and he knows where to put the hammer down. All the same, though, that 2-lap undercut will be helping Campbell in the grip department.
You just got to have enough on the final lap is all that matters for Sean Campbell. You can, coast big time here and there this lap, but come that final lap, you need to have done enough by that point that you're not deep in a hole. Deep in the corner.
Very deep as well. And again, shows the nose. Gets a better exit. He's going to draw alongside as King chases Rowley down. Campbell up the inside of Brownlee now, and gives up a bit of pace at the hairpin, but Brownlee will ultimately give him the position, and now Campbell does not have the luxury of a slipstream to save fuel.
Gilbert could have some problems with Brownlee though, so if Brownlee slows him up or any way, that Gilbert needs to be ready at every opportunity to get down the inside of Brownlee if Brownlee's off pace.
Again, worth pointing out that Campbell and Brownlee are both part of the same team, so they will be in communication with each other. Potentially, Campbell said to Lockie, okay, I've hit my numbers. I can get to the finish now, and Brownlee would just give him the position. The final lap begins, and Sean Campbell has almost a second's lead over Aaron Gilbert. Brownlee goes defensive versus Aaron there, potentially to try and help out Sean Campbell. But Aaron is a fan of getting the exit from Atwood and flying up the inside of the hairpin. We'll see if he does the same here.
He's so close to Brownlee, but he's not close at all to Campbell.
Not quite leaving Morse code on the bumper. Slide for Brownlee, straighter exit for Gilbert, but it translates into a defense to the inside for Mr. Brownlee. Mr. Gilbert, meanwhile, has the nose ahead into the braking zone, but Lockhart makes it back up and stays ahead through the hairpin. And Dylan Walker's catching up, set a 131.7 versus a 132.3 for Lockhart Brownlee. So potentially the 2019 lead may be under threat here, but remains to be seen. Gilbert nice and deep into the hairpin, but avoids getting into the back of Brownlee. Last few corners then, all of them right-handers. And I think that's
Grossenbacher's had a great race. He was fastest car of anyone of any class last lap, and he's just back there in 5th. But Campbell is probably going to change that. This lap looks like it's going to be a purple sector everywhere.
Brilliant drive from Sean Campbell. He takes the win in race 2 at Okayama. The Holden Racing team liveried machine on top with Brownlee and Gilbert rounding out your overall top three. Dylan Walker finishes in second in 2019, and Remo Grossenbacher, you're right, had a great race. Finishes a solid fifth overall and third in 2014. Close between Billy Rowley and Henry King. Also between Daniel Stevens and Joe Mahoney. The 2019 Mustangs towards the rear of the field. Robbie Bradbury finishing 1.5 seconds ahead of Gavin Cox, or near enough. Colin Bruns trailing behind. And then that just leaves Dean Alessi and Gary Watson to take the finish. But Sean Campbell can be very happy with how he pulled that one off. We thought it was in doubt with his fuel saving, but he made it work.
Well, it ran out exiting Atwood, so it got that far.
And Lockhart Brownlee was sending it into the wall on the final lap. He's going to stop at the same point. Billy Rowley starting his victory celebrations early. But Lockhart Brownlee can stand proud, winning both races in his class here at Okayama. That'll put a little bit of a dent into Dylan Walker's championship lead. So, Campbell by 2.4 seconds or over Lockhart Brownlee, with Gilbert, Walker and Grossenbacher your overall top five there. It was a great race for Lockhart Brownlee. And, well, Dylan Walker will have to settle for second in both races here, with Lewis rounding out your top three. Mazzomo gets another P4 for his troubles, with Bradbury, Cox and Alessi rounding out your 2019 field. In 2014, Sean Campbell, 2.5 seconds taken over Aaron Gilbert there. Remo Grossenbacher, only 4.5 seconds behind. He was fast in the closing stages. Got to go back another 10 seconds to find Billy Rowley and Henry King, with Stevens and Mahoney crossing the line a mere 0.2 of a second apart. Colin Bruns finishing on his own in 8th, same for Gary Watson. Martin Lipsky, unfortunately, retiring from the race. The only retirement that we've had all night, thanks to that contact with Chad Lewis. Well, that will round out the field here, and it looks like we'll have Lockhart Brownlee moving his way into the interview booth and into the comms box with us. Congratulations, Lockie, on the double victory here, putting a bit of a dent there in Dylan Walker's championship lead.
Yeah, it's a good race tonight. Obviously, the difference between the Gen 1s and Gen 2s wasn't massive tonight, and made for some interesting racing. But yeah, obviously I am going for the championship, so beating Dylan in both races tonight definitely helps towards that, and I've got to use those drop rounds strategically. So having 2 wins in a round means this isn't one of those. So yeah.
Very nicely done. We're going to be staying in Japan for the next round of V8SCOPS supports on the 5th of September. We're going to Motegi, also quite a technical circuit like Okayama. Do you think that the Orbit Drop Bear cars will be able to carry the same pace there they did here?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't have too much of a pace offset to Dylan tonight. I had to use a lot of the strategy. So pitting early, and especially in that second race, I made sure I covered off the undercut by going really, really early. And obviously track position was key here, so that's why I did that. And I don't know. I haven't done any laps at Motegi. I don't know if there's a dock sitting around for that. I might have to build one. But yeah, we'll see how we go. And yeah, we'll see when that round comes around.
Certainly will. Hope to see you there again, Lockie. Congratulations on the victory. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the team. Obviously, everyone at SimSpeed as well for putting on the broadcast. SCOPS and AOG for putting on the event tonight. I want to thank Connor for giving me a setup and going back in the backlogs. I think it was an Oshishliben setup I used tonight. And obviously the sponsors of the team at ODBM, Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport. So Incozy Engineering Solutions, Revolution Race Gear, and a bunch of others that I'm not going to say because I'll be here forever. So yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks for coming, Lockie. See you next round.
Thank you. Bye.
Lockhart Brownlee winning the 2019 class, finishing second in 2014 in the second race here. Aaron Gilbert, David Haynes has got him.
Well, in race 1, you had enough to win the class, but it just looked like the pace that Sean Campbell had, he was going to really challenge you in race 2 when he got there.
Yeah, he showed real good pace even in the first one, coming from last. I mean, I think if he ran all year, I'd be in really big trouble, I think. But good on him for showing up and giving me a good race. Really.
Well, timing's everything, and you've had it this season. Talk us through the strategy then across both the races, because strategically identical. You can learn from race 1 and do something different race 2 if you want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I just sort of kept it pretty simple for me. That is, just trying to race the people I was around. Just sort of split the 2 races in half and made it pretty easy. But I think the pit stop cycle hurt me in the second one. I probably pitted a lap early. I should have pitted maybe a lap later. But that's the way it goes, I think.
And then you did get to battle Sean Campbell all the way in that final stint there. Looked like he had a bit of saving to do, at least initially.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get past Lockhart Brownlee there. I mean, he's got every right to race us, so that's cool. But yeah, he races hard and fair, so it's always a pleasure. But yeah, once he cleared him, I had no tyre left at the end there for him, so yeah, no, it was good work for him to come all the way from the back on the first one and get the win on the second. So,
well, first and a second in class, you take an outright win as well. That's a pretty good haul from Okayama for you.
Yeah, well, I think my worst result is round 1 so far this year when I blew my engine up. But other than that, it's been a win or a second, I think, from memory. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it's been a very good year so far, and I just want to keep that consistency going. So hopefully we can go for the championship again. Would be really nice.
We'll see you next time out. Thanks so much. Congratulations, and anyone you want to thank.
I just thank the HJR team and Jinx Shifters and Brett for helping me with the setup for this round, and yeah, appreciate all the hard work from the guys, so it's good.
Well, that's going to round things off for tonight's broadcast. Big thanks for joining us for the drivers there. And, well, Haynes, we're going to be going to Twin Ring at Motegi for the next round. This is a classic iRacing V8 track, and it'll be good to see them run around there again.
Yeah, it is. Got some similar characteristics, some sort of 90-degree corners, some tight, slow stuff, but also you've got sequence of S's around the back. There's some really long braking zones downhill. Good track, and twice you get to pop underneath the banking.
You certainly do. Well, get ready for that one on the 5th of September, back on a Friday night. But tomorrow evening, we'll be going racing in V8SCOPS proper. We will once again be racing at Okayama. So mark that in your calendar, going live at about 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Catch it here on SimSpeed TV on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy, bringing you live pictures from behind the scenes. We'll see you tomorrow.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish. Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, From the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.